35 years ago today in Japan, a game was released that changed the gaming industry. It was released 2 years after the North American video game crash of 1983, as well as the launch of the family computer Famicom in Japan that same year. It was a game that was instrumental in marketing the already successful Famicom differently outside of Japan. It was called the NES, or Nintendo Entertainment System. It became the archetype for the side-scroller platformer that overtook the single-screen arcade platformer. It featured a character that was initially known as Jumpman in Donkey Kong, before starring as a plumber in the arcade game Mario Bros. It is, of course, the infamous game Super Mario Bros. How can anyone not know about this game? Its characters, its graphics, its music. It is almost hard to believe that this game was released 35 years ago, before creating a legacy and franchise with series of characters that still exist today. So let's look at it and see what it is like to play it today. It is in the very simple story of Super Mario Bros. That concepts such as the Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser, and Peach were first introduced. Bowser, also known as King Koopa, or the Koopa Turtle King, invades the Mushroom Kingdom with a bunch of Koopas and turns the citizens into bricks, stones, and so on. Princess Toadstool, or Peach, is the only one who can reverse the spell, so she is kidnapped. It is up to you, playing as Mario, to save her. Yes, that story has been told many times in the Mario game sets, to the point of the games relying on the gameplay to be good. Which is fine, since the gameplay in this game is good, even if it features Mario hitting the bricks that seem to be the Mushroom Kingdom people. Maybe we should look past that. The production values are also important to note. Beyond the scrolling screens is the deliberate use of colours and character sprites and background details, courtesy of Shigeru Miyamoto's design decisions. These are nothing worth praising about by today's standards, but back then, they were something. The colours, while muted, are still nice, and the animation of the character sprites is simple yet effective, with the way they move around the levels giving a sense of scale and world building. The size of the characters, especially Mario as he powers up or down, is important, but we'll come back to that. It is hard to tell whether that detail of Mario is a mouth or mustache, but that's the 8-bit graphics that had to be worked with back then. And the music is so iconic. Just the first few notes of the main theme alone will make anyone press that buzzer super fast on a video game music quiz. It is so recognisable, and quite possibly one of the catchiest themes in video games. The other tunes, such as the underground and castle levels, are also catchy. The soundtrack is overall limited and fairly repetitive, but the tunes, combined with the sound effects of Mario jumping, hitting enemies and so on, showcase Koji Kondo's talents of music and sound design. Also, the music speeds up if the timer is close to 0. Once you've declared that main music theme to be catchy, you will notice one of the most important aspects of the gameplay of Super Mario Bros. The controls. They are simple and understandable. You use the D-pad to move Mario left to right, with the A button to jump and the B button to move faster. That's it. That's all there is to it. The physics and how Mario moves are important. You can change Mario's direction mid-jump, and you have to move fast enough with the B button to make a really long jump. It is easy to criticize Mario's movement as being slippery, possibly to the point of resulting in an unfair death that was probably beyond your control, but Mario is above all responsive and fun to take control of. Then there is the level design. It has been said many times how the first level, World 1-1, sets up the game, but let's look at it again. There is flat ground, then there is a Goomba slowly moving towards Mario. If you don't know how to jump, that Goomba will probably kill you. Then you try again, and you either jump over it or on it. That's what you have to do with most enemies in the game. Then there are tantalizing gold-coloured blocks. One contains a coin, the other a mushroom. The mushroom makes Mario bigger and stronger. That makes sense. Then there are blocks, bottomless pits, and pipes that generally require Mario to run or jump higher to traverse them. Variations of all of this exist in the whole game, and World 1-1 is a textless tutorial that sets the player up for the rest of the game, where the levels gradually get harder and on a good difficulty curve. Overall, the level design is exceptional and rarely unfair. The variety is decent, as there are also underground levels, water levels, and castles. It is confounding, however, to not be able to go backwards to see if there were any coins or blocks you missed. Plus, every 4 levels conclude with a castle, only to be told by a Toad taken captive by Bowser that your princess is in another castle. But you have to understand how limited game development was back then. The challenge and length of this game are also interesting to note. The aforementioned mushroom means Mario can be hit once before being killed by an enemy. If you find the fire flower, you can shoot fireballs at enemies while still being more super, like you would with a mushroom. It's a pretty cool power-up. There is also the star power-up, which makes Mario invincible for a short time. Of course, that can't save you from bottomless pits. And when you're not invincible, you have to be careful of Goombas, Koopas, Piranha Plants, and other enemies, even Bowser himself. And of course, there are the dreaded Hammer Brothers. Hate those guys. If you pay attention to Mario's movement and use power-ups such as Fire Flowers effectively, you should be able to beat the game fairly easily. To be fair, the later levels can be fairly challenging, and can potentially lead to a game over that sends you all the way back to World 1-1. At least gaining 100 coins and 1-ups or extra lives can help with that, or for warp pipes. Yes, the game is short, even for an arcade-style title, and the few warp pipes that skip entire groups of stages make it shorter still. If you're good at this game, complete each level really quickly and skip to the levels that are the furthest away, you can complete the game in a few minutes. Seriously. When you beat the game once, you can play through the game again with it being slightly more difficult and the Goombas at least being replaced by Buzzy Beetles. Still, whether you played this game before or not, it is hard not to appreciate the level design and how the game progresses, not to mention the control of Mario and the variety of enemies and power-ups. Though, really, who hasn't played this game before? Who hasn't not heard of it? It is on almost every Nintendo system in some form, whether it's the Wii Virtual Console or even being playable on Animal Crossing on the GameCube. It is pretty much the same game every time, though it was changed to a degree for the Super Mario All-Stars collection and the Deluxe version on Game Boy Color. The version on Super Mario All-Stars that is featured alongside 3 other Mario games can quite possibly be considered the definitive version. The graphics are more colourful and detailed, including Mario's sprite and background details such as clouds and trees, as well as the walls of the underground levels, castles, and even bonus rooms. The music is given a 16-bit makeover, but it's still the same catchy melodies. The gameplay is exactly the same, with the levels, progression, enemies, power-ups, and second difficult game kept intact. Mario's movement could be considered slightly more slippery to control, but it's barely noticeable in comparison. There is a save function which is almost unnecessary for the game's short length outside of game overs, but it doesn't hurt to have it. I have not actually played the Game Boy Color release, and am aware of a screen crunch that seems to make it hard to see what's in front of Mario. Still, it seems very much playable, and with the additional content, it is surely a good way to experience Super Mario Bros. In handheld form at the least. But should you experience the game today? Well, yes! It is very much playable. Of course, the game would be expanded or improved on in later Mario games. Why can't you go backwards? Why are the colours muted? Why is the variety somewhat lacking when it comes to levels, power-ups, and enemies? But looking past the limits, Super Mario Bros. Is more than just a fun 2D side-scroller. It introduced concepts that would make the later Mario games what they are. But overall, it made an impact outside Japan at the least. The NES would normally be packaged with this game, and as a result, the video game crash would easily become a distant memory. Games were cool again, and many gaming consoles are now in many homes to this day, thanks to the NES and Super Mario Bros. Super Mario Bros. Will come out in Japan after games such as Excitebike, but it's hard to think of it as not being a launch game. Quite simply, it is an important, influential, somewhat revolutionary, and above all, fun game. Time to play it all over again. Happy 35th anniversary, Super Mario Bros.